Too many pilots are being trained to pass a test, not to survive the real world thereafter. And that, my friends, is a serious problem. Today, we're talking about scenario-based flight training, what it is, why it matters, and how we can implement it across all levels of flight training from recreational right through to instructor development. I'm going to discuss all that and more coming right up. So strap in and let's get into it.
Good morning, 3614, 95 Mallow 7 POB with altitude.
Coordinating, Halen and rudder, bank, talent, bank pressure rolling at 30 degrees. That's 30 degrees there. Send by star 9000, 1013, KFI 25.
G'day everyone and welcome to episode 185 of the Flight Training Australia podcast all about flight training and flying in Australia and beyond. G'day, I'm your host, Trent Robinson, and thank you for joining me. Well, big congratulations to Byron Waller and his instructors completing his assisted flight around the world. As a 15-year-old, just turned 16 on the way into Brizzy. No doubt an incredible experience and one he will always remember. I'm going to be catching up with Byron in the coming weeks, have a good chat about his adventure and also the whole reason he did the flight, which was to raise awareness for Crohn's disease. So if you don't know what that is, we will talk about it then. Christmas parties, can you even believe it? It's nearly October, has only got a few more days to go. And Christmas party dates and emails are going out. As always, have a fantastic time. Look after your mates. It's a great time to relax and reminisce about the year that was. But it's also a time where sometimes we lose ourselves a bit too much and people do silly things. So please look after each other. Don't lose your job over a few too many. And always make sure you get home safe and have a wonderful Christmas break. Better give a special shout out to my good friend Dan Bolton completing his instrument rating training or testing endorsement, flight examiner endorsement for testing on the Mallard. And anyone else who has done something this week, let me know. If you've got a friend, a colleague, or something you've achieved that you want a quick little shout out on, let me know, and I'm happy to have a little shout out segment every couple of episodes or something and acknowledge your achievements. It's something very, very special. And like I said, we've all been there. We've all had a little try it. So no matter what you do in this industry, I was just looking through my logbooks with my son and wife the other day and just reminiscing on flights and things. And, 30 years in aviation now. We've done a lot of different things, and even after 30 years, there's still new, exciting achievements to be had. So let me know if it's something you want me to share and mention, and I will do my best to do that. Also, having said that as well, just a quick reminder, if you've got some specific training emails or anything you want to ask me about, please email it to me rather than hit me up in socials. I've just gone through my social media list and realized there's a whole heap of messages there that I've either missed or just not had time to get back to. So if I haven't got back to you, it's not because I don't love you. It's just I am getting smashed. And if it's social, then just message me again. You're not hounding me. It's just that at the time I was busy and I've just forgotten to get it back. And like I've said before, I am a kind of a one-man band. So do that. But if it's anything training related, please hit me up on email. And that way I should definitely get to it and respond to you. All right. Today's episode. So really, how many of you have done a forced landing practice that kind of felt like you had to do it to tick a box rather than preparing for an actual emergency? Or a nav flight where the biggest challenge was really remembering the CTAF calls and not what to do when things don't go to plan. Right, so when things happen, when real things happen, an engine fire, getting caught in deteriorating weather, a passenger falls sick, an engine fire in flight, to name just a few, too many pilots are freezing. And that's because instead, they've been taught how to fly to pass a test. They've never been trained to think like a pilot. All right, let's be honest. A lot of flight training today looks like general handling, climb, descend, turn, steep turn, stall, tick, tick, tick. Emergency drills are rehearsed at altitude with the instructor announcing the failure before it even happens. You even know it's going to happen because today's emergency day. All right, navigation exercises are in reasonable weather. Diversions are pretty much known before you go. All right, and all of this absolutely has its place in an initial style of training. We don't need to build things up too dramatically to begin with. But what it doesn't do is prepare a pilot for the complex, messy, ambiguous reality of day-to-day general aviation flying. Engines don't fail on a calm day in straight and level with 3,000 feet below you. All right, weather doesn't wait to suit you. Real diversions aren't clean and easy. Real emergencies aren't pre-announced with, okay, simulated. What are you going to do now? Right? If we're not preparing students to think like pilots, not just fly like them, then we're setting them up to fail when it counts most. Right, so what scenario-based training, or SBT, is about creating realistic, goal-orientated missions, not just exercises. Right, so it's blending decision-making, risk management, situational awareness, and operational thinking into every single flight, from ab initio right the way through to instructor delivery to flight examiner training and delivery. Instead of teaching a student just to do a steep turn, we build a situation where that steep turn has a purpose or part of a mission outcome. Instead of just diverting, we create the reason to divert, other than just smoke or there's weather ahead. Right? Under time pressure, with ambiguous information, just like real life. SBT encourages pilots to think beyond the stick and rudder, to understand context, consequences, and choices. You have to go left or right. You have to pick one, and you have to pick one now. All right, so how can we go about this? So let's start with the basic recreational level and we'll build it up. So at the basic level, whether it's a recreational certificate or the early stages of the PPL, we can implement it quite easily. So some example scenarios might be you're taking a friend for a flight to a nearby strip for lunch. The forecast is good, but there's a scattered layer. How are you going to plan, brief, and manage your flight? Doesn't have to be that complicated, but when you rock up for a flight all by yourself with your license, that's most likely what you're going to deal with. You've just taken off and your passenger mentions that fuel is dripping under the wing. What are you going to do now? You're overhead a paddock for a practice force landing, but the simulated engine failure is unannounced at a really awkward point in the circuit. Not a nice, convenient, high, perfect glide circuit approach. We're starting to teach contextual thinking, looking outside the window, managing distractions, making a plan, executing the plan, and adapting it when things change. Key skills we need to be teaching is situational awareness, weather judgment, and basic threat and error management. Right, but as we move more into solid PPL training, this is where things can start to get a bit more real. Again, we don't want to scare people off as well, but we need to be a reality that we are giving people a license to go and fly without an instructor, without an experienced pilot on board. So instead of just sending students on structured nav exercises, give them a mission. You're flying to Catherine to meet family. There's a front moving in from the west. How are you going to manage your fuel, your alternates, and end of daylight? En route, the passenger gets airsick. How are you going to manage the flight, the passenger, making sure that you fly the aeroplane? And are you going to divert, turn back, or continue to your destination? The CTAF is blocked with an aircraft disabled on the runway. What are you going to do? PPL scenario training should make students comfortable with ambiguity and real-world decision-making. It's no longer about the perfect plan and the perfect procedures. You must be able to adapt and stay ahead of the aircraft. It's okay to have a plan, but if the plan doesn't happen and the student falls apart, well, that's on us. How about CPL training? All right, the big one, arguably where SBT is most lacking today. I am seeing far too many CPL qualified students are being trained like advanced PPLs. Right? Same sort of nav flights, same sort of drills, zero operational realism. What am I talking about? Well, remember GA, commercial flying, it's never just A to B. You're dealing with weather, passengers, time pressure, fatigue, maintenance issues, operational requirements, fuel and alternates, weight and balance compromises, dangerous goods. Different classifications of flight, carrying freight, airwork. All right. So we need to be rolling this into commercial training. This isn't something you learn when you get to Darwin or the NT or Broome or Mount Isa or Cairns or wherever it is that you're going. Some scenarios, right, that you can build into the commercial training. Your passengers are running late. The weather's deteriorating. The company's looking for an ETA. What are you going to do? You land at a remote airstrip and the starter motor won't engage. How are you going to handle it? Right? You're 50 miles out to your destination and the alternator light comes on. What are you going to do? And that's a really great one, and I've mentioned that one before. The good old alternator light. Is it a high voltage light, a low voltage light? What aircraft system's going to be affected? Radios are going to start playing up. Undercarriage isn't going to activate. Flaps aren't going to work. No radio procedure. One little scenario, you can play it right out and cover all of this off all the way to the destination. If you've never done a no radio entry to the controlled airspace, it's a little bit hard at international airports. I appreciate that, but it can be organised and at Class D aerodromes. How many of you have actually seen the green light flash or shine on final? What about an engine fire? The kind of training they've been doing so much lately with the GA transition course, I'll often set up an engine fire scenario and pilots want to put it into a glide at 3,000 feet. You've got about 20 to 30 seconds to get that thing down. Right? You're going to burn up. You can't be doing that. And as instructors, we can build the realism. All right? I certainly do. We get the aircraft down, we point the nose down, and we get it down as soon as humanly possible. Right? This is where we can train command decision-making. Something like an engine fire, it's in the MOS. It's in the flight test forms. It should be done through the training. When I ask about it, we talked about it once. Okay, not good enough. There's consequences, airmanship and professional judgment. All these things we need to see, and if we're not seeing it, we need to teach it. A CPL graduate should be able to walk into their first GA job already used to operating like a commercial pilot because they've done simulations. It doesn't have to be in a 210. It can be in any of these aircraft. Setting up a pipeline inspection, flora and fauna survey, air work. It's not that hard, right? They shouldn't just be holding a CPL certificate. How about instrument flying? Right? Scenario-based training is incredibly critical in IFR, and in one way, probably the most obvious of all. But instrument flying sometimes is just too sterile. Into the hold, intercept, fly the approach, fly the missed approach. But real IFR involves decision-making under pressure. Right? Some example scenarios here. You're en route, IFR. Air traffic control tells you the ILS at the destination has gone unserviceable, but you need it for the minima. What's your plan? All right, you're an IMC encountering severe or moderate turbulence. What are you going to do? All right, your alternates are marginal. Your TAF's just changed. What are you going to do? Right, instrument training should be incorporating realistic simulated weather when it's not directly available, unplanned changes, and workload management to build that resilience and confidence in IMC. How about instructor training? If instructors don't know how to implement SBT, students will never experience it themselves. So instructor training isn't just about smacking up briefs on a whiteboard through a PowerPoint and learning patter in flight. It should be teaching how to build realistic scenarios into standard lessons. Shift from here's how to do it to here's a situation, let's think it through. Focus on facilitating thought, not just spoon-feeding answers. When we train instructors, we should be training instructors to ask what's happening, what are your options, what are the risks, what's your plan, instead of what do you do now. But the benefits of scenario-based training are well known and used right the way through into airlines. It builds resilient thinking pilots, not just procedural ones. It improves decision-making, reduces accident rates, encourages better cockpit management and communication, and produces, most importantly, commercial pilots who can actually operate in the real world almost from day one. Right? It isn't about adding more hours or cost. It's about changing the way we use the hours we already have to train. All right, so SBT, it isn't something new, but it is underused and it's not being employed by instructors and flight schools today. If we want safer skies, more capable pilots, better training outcomes, reduced incident and accident rates, this is where we need to be heading. So whether you're a student, instructor, and operator, ask yourself, am I training for a test or am I training for reality? All right, I'd love to hear your experiences. If you've had a flight where your training didn't really prepare you for what happened, or maybe it did and you've got an instructor who absolutely nailed it, and they've even had a real world scenario themselves that they've used to train and teach better students. Let me know. Jump on Instagram, Flight Training Australia, send me an email, and you can also get me on LinkedIn, of course. All right, guys, have a wonderful, safe week. Get into that SBT, and remember the golden rule: aviate, navigate, communicate. See you next time.